But thanks again, Ryan, Angela, and Kate. That we had some good meetings, and I think good feedback. And yeah, I'll put some stuff in the newsletter on Monday. But any ideas of how we should do things differently? I thought it went pretty well.
I thought so too, Ron. I thought the meetings went great. And I really thought it was a successful week.
Yeah, no, I want to thank all of y'all. The coordinated effort between you guys, it was awesome. We had some really good meetings that like so much better than last year, and I really appreciate the effort that everybody put in. I think we've made had really good meetings with DEP, and our meetings with even Commerce and DOT went well, and being able to talk to them about, overlapping topics, if, perhaps we can convince them, down there on the Sea Oats Beach area, especially that both of those divisions of DEP and DOT are involved in that project, and maybe we can get some funding out of both of them to try to save that highway and save Sea Oats Beach, what we call Bale Beach. So that goes
Yeah.
back a little.
Agreed, Mayor. Sometimes it takes that face-to-face meeting for them to get creative and think about synergies like that.
And that's maybe that's just step one, and maybe Ron and I can find the time here after all of the craziness happens, and maybe another 2 months or something, and things kind of calm down, and we can go back up and meet with them again, and just reinforce what we said, and maybe bring some good photos and stuff of what's really going on down here.
Well, and assuming that DEP gets, substantial funds for either their resiliency program or otherwise, those grant application portals will probably open up right around that June, July timeframe. So, I mean, I think what would be beneficial for us is if the village has any sort of engineering study about what needs to be done, because clearly, you want to show them you have a plan, right, to be able to for the state to kick in for funding. And I know we're already working on that specifically for Sea Oats, but it would just be good to kind of have that conversation with them.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Hi, Don.
So,
Sharon, are you back in the Keys?
yes,
No, I came to Orlando last night. I'm at a dance convention for my daughter.
it-
Well,
Never
it
a
was good
dull
to see you
moment.
in Tallahassee this week.
It's good to see you guys too.
yeah, no, Angela, thank you for getting in the back doors of some of those places and being able to sit down and talk. We really appreciate all the work that you guys did. And like I said, I think it's the first step at maybe, uh, you know, changing the way business was done in the past, and maybe we can get something done. I'm really excited about it.
Any follow up we need to do with any of the from the meetings that y'all know of? I know we did a lot of follow up while we were there, but Deb Gillis says she's going to sign on. I've been texting the other council. Sharon says she'll be on in a couple of minutes. I didn't hear back. I just texted Anna. So yeah, obviously Anna was up there, but I talked with Sharon this morning, gave her an update of what we did, and Steve Friedman. I haven't talked to Deb yet, but she'll be signing on in just a minute. So I just want to make sure they're involved. I don't know if there's any members of the public on. Frank, can you tell if there's anybody other than the panelists?
We have an E Primavera, Frank Derfler, Legislative Aid 120, District 120, Lee Chris. Hopefully I got that right, and Stuart Schaefer.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for the council, Frank, can you see if anybody wants to ask any questions? But while we're waiting
Ron,
for,
why don't I talk a little bit about what happened during this week, even though, you guys were in meetings, but there were still, bills moving. I don't know
Oh,
if
thank
you.
you. I think so,
well,
Ryan.
I
Thank
was
you.
wanting to see if we could get Sharon and Deb on though, because they're two council people. So I was thinking maybe just until they get on, maybe see if anybody from the public wants to ask a question. That way, once Deb and Sharon get on, then you can do the update because I don't want to give the update twice.
Sure.
Frank, does anybody have any hand raised? Is that from the public other than the panelists?
Not at this time, but if anybody has any questions, I'd encourage you to raise your hand, which you can do by clicking the raise hand button on the bottom bar of your Zoom window.
Anybody? Okay,
Nobody
Deb's
so
on.
far.
Welcome, Deb. She's muted. You're muted. There she. Now you're on.
Now
Can you
I'm
hear
unmuted.
us,
Okay.
Deb?
I thought there wasn't one today because of you to be coming home from Tallahassee.
Well, we figured though that since you and Sharon and Steve weren't there, we do the update anyway. Plus, we got members of the public that are tuning in, and so we have a couple participants from the public. So
I thought I saw a notice that it would be tomorrow, and I thought, what?
not on
But
Saturday.
that's okay. No. Okay, I'm here.
Okay. And once again, Frank, there's nobody from the public that wants to speak, correct?
We have no hands raised at this time.
Okay, I interrupted Ryan. Apologize, Ryan. I just want to make sure at least Deb got on. So if you want to go and do that update that you're going to give us.
Sorry, Ryan.
No problem, Deb. Good to see you. We missed you in Tallahassee.
I miss being there.
I think you'll hear from Ron that there were some productive meetings while the group was in Tallahassee. Obviously, always a bit of a frenetic pace during Keys Day because of the large contingency that comes up from the Keys. Not a bad thing, but folks are generally running around quite a bit. But business was still ongoing at the Capitol. Historically, week 4 is when both the House and Senate are releasing their individual budgets. That did not happen this week. And quite frankly, I would be surprised if it happened next week. There is some consternation between the House and Senate that has been pretty public. And so that's going to lead to significant delay. And it kind of throws a variable of chaos to a certain degree into the normal process, which is, again, the individual chambers release their budgets. They get together usually in week 7, week 8 for a budget conference. And then you've got session ending on week 9 after they've agreed to a budget and 72 hours have transpired after it's placed on the desk and then it's formally adopted and sent to the governor. I would be very surprised if we get out of session on time this year, just because we're already a little bit behind from a budgeting perspective. So that was one of the biggest sort of things that occurred this week. But in terms of bills that moved through the process, so there was no action on property taxes this week. The Senate has still not yet released their plan. The House did not move any of their 7 proposals through the process. None of the original 7 that we've talked about on this Zoom before have passed off the House floor to date. So we're at a little bit of a standstill as it relates to property taxes. Property insurance, the Senate president this week, I believe yesterday even, in his press gaggle said that he didn't anticipate anything happening as it relates to property insurance in the 2026 legislative session. And then a couple of individual bills just kind of highlight what happened this week. House Bill 103, which deals with the repeal of local business taxes, passed and is now ready for the floor. It's sort of a suite of bills that are dealing with local government revenue streams. This is a bill that's been around for a couple years. It has now, again, gotten through all of its committees on the House side and is moving as well on the Senate side. So certainly a threat to local business taxes. We've had multiple discussions over Senate Bill 180 that passed in 2025, and the potential glitch bills that have been filed this year to fix some of the overreach, if you will. So there is Senate Bill 218 in the Senate, actually moved this week, but it only deals with the Panhandle. It doesn't deal with the entirety of the state. You'll recall Senate Bill 180 put significant restrictions on comp plan amendments in terms of whether they were restrictive or burdensome, yet there were no definitions of what an amendment that is restrictive or burdensome is. The House has a bill 1465 that is substantially different than the Senate bill that most local governments like, Senate Bill 840. That bill hasn't moved. Neither has the House version 1465. So right now, not much is happening in terms of fixing Senate Bill 180. And it's probably going to be something, if anything occurs at all, is in the very latter part of session. There was a bill, and I should say this, with what we have going on with the budget, with the property tax potential reform, there are a lot of variables this session that could derail the legislative sort of process. And so I would say that it's very unlikely that we have a significant number of bills that pass at the end of the day, just because of everything else that is going on. But these are just a few that, have some momentum. The next is House Bill 382, which deals with e-bikes. There has been, a couple years ago, significant preemption as it related to motorized scooters and e-bikes. Last year, there was a little bit of a walking back of that preemption to grant more local government authority as it relates to scooters and e-bikes. And this bill would create an electric bicycle safety task force that would look at current laws and abilities of local governments to regulate scooters and e-bikes, just to kind of take a look at a comprehensive approach, because we're seeing more accidents, we're seeing a lot of speeding, etc. So this is one to be mindful of. House Bill 1329 deals with local government spending. This would be one of the bills that really was put forward by CFO Angolia. It restricts, or I should say expands, requirements of local governments to post online their budget, which in theory, not a bad thing, sort of a transparency aspect, but I would say that the emphasis is placed on an interactive sort of budgeting process available online to the public, which I can only imagine would have a significant cost that comes with it. So, the feedback that I have gotten on the local government spending bills is that, yes, certainly in theory, a good thing, but incredibly costly to actually achieve. We talked last week about qualified contractors. This was something that was discussed that is giving more authority to private providers to be involved in the land use planning process, the building permitting process, etc. That bill has moved through another House committee and creates a scenario with which you have private providers effectively becoming local government employees. And so that's a significant change. Mary, you look.
Ryan, what was the number on that one again?
927.
I think I'll give a call to Mooney and AMR on that one. So thank you. It's
Yes,
a
sir.
House bill, right?
Yeah, the Senate bill is 1136, I believe, Mayor.
Thank you.
The last bill I'll talk about is the Department of Ag bill. Senate Bill 290 had made a lot of headlines this week for a couple different reasons. There's a particular aspect of that bill dealing with a food libel expansion. Basically, ag producers could sue for disparaging comments, practices against certain ag products. The House heard their bill yesterday, and I was fairly certain that there was a commitment made in that committee to remove the specific food libel expansion provision out of the bill. So we'll keep you updated in terms of when that does happen, but it certainly has caused a lot of publicity around the bill. And so we are hearing that that provision will be removed, but I don't know when. I'll just keep you updated as to when it is, if it is.
So on the business tax, I know that our local tax collector is the one that gets that. We used to call it a business license, and they were careful about changing that terminology many years ago, several years ago. And but that business tax was collected by our local tax collector. But did we actually ever benefit from that tax that was given on those licenses, that were to vendors and contractors? And and all of the other folks that had businesses. Did the village actually benefit from that in any way?
So tough for me to answer. I mean, the typical way that works is that yes, the county property tax collector collects, but generally distributes amongst the municipalities revenue from those business tax receipts. In some locales, it is an important step from a comp plan amending or a comp plan perspective because then you at least have an accounting of where types of businesses are located within your community. I think that's probably more important from a community of a larger size than Islamorada. But that's what I hear from most other clients.
All right, thank you. I think we ought to look into that because through all the years of me watching and listening to budgets, I don't think anybody's ever mentioned that we got some, reimbursement or whatever, from the county that came back into the village for that tax. That's worth looking into.
And then Kate or Angela, Aaron, I don't know if you guys have anything, but that's all I had this week.
You hit every bill on my list. So
Yeah, I think that's everything, Ryan. We'll just keep you all updated as things progress with the budget here. Hopefully we'll see some initial budgets released next week so that, process continues on. And then, Ron, I'll follow up with you after that as far as any other follow up from the meetings, especially with OPB from this past week, any information that we need for that.
Thank you, Angela. Angela, those connections that you made with us with DOT have already worked. I already got an email. I think Ron was copied on the email. Perhaps Jennifer was too. DOT had already sent an introductory email to the folks at District 6 and put us all into an email chain so that we can hopefully get them down here as we discussed, and I'll have them visit some of our sites that we were having discussions about. So I appreciate those contacts, Angela.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So for anybody that's listening on here from the public, we had a lot of really good meetings, and it was thanks to Ryan and his group and Kate and Angela. They were all, and Aaron, very instrumental in getting us in front of the right people, we think, and hopefully, we'll start having more communication with those folks up in Tallahassee and in those departments. One thing interesting was the comment that really came out of DOC, and I think the question was pretty much a point blank question: is why are we having some difficulty with commerce, and why are other cities having, and their answer pretty much was because of 180. They're on their toes with 180, the same that everyone else is, and they actually talked about our comprehensive plan and how they're going to be taking a hard look because of 180. So I guess that's probably why some communities have just put their comp plans on hold until this thing shakes out.
I think you're right, Mayor.
Thank you.
I have a question if you're done with that conversation. I don't want to cut in.
No, please.
Have you seen any bills related to Visit Florida? It would be towards the budget side of all of this, of them not funding Visit Florida this year.
I have not, Deb, but we haven't seen, again, either chamber's
Enough of that, yeah.
proposal. So from a budgeting perspective, but no, but I haven't heard of anything either.
How about the vacation rental? Us losing control of the vacation rentals and people having, in the past years, there's always been a push every year to take it out of our hands.
Nope. So, the grandfather that originally existed that you all operate still in effect. No potential change there.
Good.
we get a year off.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Let me respond for a second too. Deb, yeah, I think you know Carol Dover. She's the president of the Restaurant Lodging Association. She was one of our presenters, and she specifically talked. She's on the Visit Florida board, and so she said yes, they feel pretty good about being in the budget, and they're seeing some real good results from the advertising marketing they've been doing. So she thinks that Visit Florida will be pretty well funded, and that even though they're worried about the TDC tax, one of the other presenters said that the tax on TDC that they don't see that as big an issue this year as it was last year. So they're staying on top of it, but they don't think there's going to be an attack on TDCs, and they think that Visit Florida will be funded.
Well, it's the TDC side of it that I was concerned about because that really affects more than just the local advertising. Or not local, national advertising. So it's yeah, and I hadn't heard anything yet, although I know budget season is young yet, so.
Now, the way
Okay,
Cheryl,
thanks.
the way Ms. Dover made it sound that the governor was very happy and there weren't any, there was no movement to mess with Visit Florida
And TDC,
and the TDC. Yes, ma'am.
okay,
Yeah.
great, that's all good news.
And Vice Mayor Mahoney says she's on, but she said Ryan answered her question, so whatever he answered, Ryan was good. And Anna Richards is in Leadership Monroe, so she can't participate. I texted Councilman Friedman. I talked to him this morning. He said he was aware of the call, but he was in a tournament. So all 5 council people have been made aware of the Zoom call, and we also have some members of the public. So, and I guess any of us have anything you want to add? Okay. Frank, any hands raised or anything?
Just have Frank Durfler at the moment, and we have no hands raised other than Sharon.
Okay. Ryan or Angela or Kate or Aaron, anything to add?
Just thank you guys for a great week this week and for running back and forth to all of the meetings.
Yeah, we enjoyed having you here. Have a good weekend. We'll certainly catch up with you next week.
Okay. We appreciate
Thanks.
everybody joining. We'll see you again next Friday.
Bye.
Thanks.
Safe
Keep up
travels,
the
Thanks,
good work.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.